Hello everyone, welcome back. In today's video we're going to be discussing a couple of things, including a couple of waiver and injury updates. We've got a couple more of Board of Governors meetings that have been taking place that we have a couple of updates on. Plus we have a couple of trade rumors involving the Toronto Maple Leafs and a defenseman, involving the Seattle Kraken and a possible goaltender trade, involving the San Jose Sharks and the Nashville Predators once again with their defenseman. We'll get to all those coming up right now. Hello everyone, welcome back to another video here at the Internet Hockey Channel. Now before we get into this video, don't forget to like this video and subscribe down below. We are still close to 200 subscribers. Thank you for all of your support. I would never be able to do this without you guys, so don't forget to subscribe. So usually I would start today's video off by discussing a couple of recent signings from around the NHL, but over the past couple days there actually hasn't been that much signings after the Niederreiter signing on, I think it was Monday, so there's not really any signings to talk about today. So we'll go quickly over to the waiver update part of the video. There was only one waiver update too. We were talking about this on Tuesday, how the Philadelphia Flyers had placed Louis Belpedio on waivers, and there was a lot of talk that he was going to possibly either clear or be claimed by the Philadelphia Flyers. He did wind up clearing, so I don't think that's too much of a surprise. Like we said, Belpedio is a long-time player from around the NHL, AHL, but he's been mostly an AHL player throughout his career, so he got an opportunity with the Philadelphia Flyers this year due to some injuries. He actually played quite well during his stint with the Philadelphia Flyers, but he's still more of an AHL defenseman, so I'm not overly shocked that he wound up clearing. He seems like a really good player, but I think he's still more of an AHL player, so it'll be interesting to see what's next for him, but he winds up clearing waivers. Don't think that's overly surprising. Like I said, I thought there was a small chance he would be claimed after his solid start to the season at the NHL level, but still, I think he's more of an AHL player at this point in time, and I don't think many teams thought that he would really upgrade their defense. So Belpedio clears waivers for the Flyers. That's a really good job there for Philadelphia, and he's going to be a very fantastic addition back in the AHL for a time being, so really good stuff there from the Philadelphia Flyers as Belpedio clears waivers and he's back to the AHL, so really good stuff there for the Flyers. But that's the only waiver update we have for today. There's no players who have been placed on waivers over the past couple of days, so it'll be interesting to see when the next waiver placement is, but for the time being, Belpedio clears waivers and that's the only waiver update we have for today. A couple of quick injury updates from around the NHL. Andrew Cogliano has a lower body injury. He's going to be out for an period of time, so a bad blow for the Colorado Avalanche. Zach Bogosian has an upper body injury. He's out day-to-day right now for the Minnesota Wild, so that's a really bad blow too, but Eric Hall has been cleared to play and got back into game action for New Jersey Devils, so that's really good news there. Bowen Byram has an upper body injury for the Avalanche. He's out for an unknown period of time. Max Jones, same thing, upper body injury, out for an unknown period of time for Anaheim, so that's bad news. Jonah Gadjovich has been cleared to play by the Florida Panthers, so that's really good news. Jared Tenorti has a concussion. He's going to be out for an unknown period of time, so really bad news for the Blackhawks. Rasmus Dahlin has a lower body injury. He's going to be out for an unknown period of time, so really bad news for the Buffalo Sabres. John Klingberg's hip injury has been updated. He's going to need surgery. He's going to be out for the next 6 months. So that's a horrible blow for the Maple Leafs, but it does give them some more cap flexibility. Adam Boqvist has a shoulder injury. He's going to be out for the next 4 weeks. So as much as he's a trade candidate, he's going to be out for the next little while. So really bad stuff there for Columbus. And then Kane Bankier is cleared to play. He's going to be sent down to the minors for the Minnesota Wild. So that's really good news there. Brandon Rust has another upper body injury. He's going to be out for another period of time. So really bad news there. Then Compher had an undisclosed injury. He's going to be out for day-to-day right now for the Red Wings. Forbert has an undisclosed injury. He's going to be out unknown period of time for the Boston Bruins. And then Chris Kreider has a lower body injury. Barclay Goodrow has an upper body injury. Both are currently day-to-day for the New York Rangers. So that's really bad blows there for the New York Rangers, but still they look fantastic. They look pretty good, and they're doing all right so far this year. So hopefully those injuries aren't going to hold them back too much, but definitely Kreider's is definitely a really bad blow to their forward group. Well, Goodrow is a really bad blow too, but not as big as a guy like Kreider. So it'll be interesting to see. But those are your injury updates. Not too much over the past couple of days, but definitely for guys like Klingberg, Boqvist, even for some extent Chris Kreider or JT Compher or Andrew Cogliano, it's not overly great news to see them go down with an injury, and hopefully they can get back in not just in future. But it's also good to see guys like Gadjovich and Bankier clear to play, and hopefully they can return to action in not just in future. So really good stuff there. But those are your injury updates. And then going over to a couple of quick updates here from the Board of Governors meeting. There's been some more talk about the Board of Governors over the past couple of days. We heard some things about this on Insider Trading. 3 things I want to quickly touch on here today. It sounds like the tournament, the World Cup of Hockey tournament that this NHL is trying to set up at this point in time is going to be a 4-team tournament, so it's not going to be a full actual World Cup of Hockey. It's just going to be not a full World Cup of Hockey, but definitely a decent one. You're going to have Team Canada most likely with Team USA, Team Finland, and Team Sweden. It sounds like it might just be Canada versus US, Sweden versus Finland in the winners play. So it's going to be interesting to see exactly how it's formatted, but it sounds like it's only going to be 4 teams, so you're not going to have all of the possible options here, and it sounds like it's just going to be NHL players, so it'll be interesting to see, but it sounds like that's sort of the way the NHL is going at this point in time. They can't get Russia in due to all of the stuff that's happening over in Russia, and then just can't seem to get it working for all these other teams to make it, because it seems like not a lot of other leagues who want to postpone their season. This is what Elliot Friedman's been saying over the past little while. And unless they're able to get some AHL players for some of these teams who don't have a lot of NHL players from these countries, they won't be able to definitely fill a full roster. So it'll be interesting to see, but it sounds like it's going to be a 4-team league for the World Cup of Hockey at 2025 with Canada, USA, Finland, and Sweden. And then they're hoping to have a full World Cup of Hockey, which will include hopefully all of the countries, back in 2028. So it'll be interesting to see. But for the time being, that's sort of what it seems like for the NHL trying to do that. There's been some more talk about the Winter Olympics. It sounds like the arena that's supposed to be made in Milan is a little bit behind schedule, which has Gary Bettman a little bit worried apparently, so that's not great news. Hopefully they are able to go to Olympics in 2026, but it would be a really bad thing if they didn't, but definitely will be interesting to see if it does wind up getting done in time. On the Insider Trading, they said that they're not trying to be pessimistic, but they don't want to get everyone's hopes up, as it's possible it doesn't happen, so it will be interesting to see. As of right now, it sounds like the NHL still wants to go to the Olympics, but they're not saying it's a undivided guarantee right now, so it will be interesting to see, but still there seems to be some things that they need to work out if they're going to go to the Winter Olympics in 2026. And then we also have the Arizona Coyotes. Apparently a lot of the governors are getting restless around the Arizona Coyotes. We talked about this in a couple of videos. Arizona needs a new arena. It sounds like they're really trying to hurry to get a new arena. It sounds like they have to have something in place probably sometime in maybe January, maybe early February. It sounds like somewhere around there Arizona has to have a new plot of land to wind up getting a new arena. It sounds like as much as there's been a lot of talk that the Arizona Coyotes will probably get a new arena at some point and that they have some parcels of land they could look at, nothing has been guaranteed and official yet, and it sounds like they're trying to hurry to try and find some sort of a place where they can play long term. So it's going to be interesting to see if they're able to find a plot of land that they can start in the not too distant future and start building upon. I think the NHL will be okay with that and would probably be alright with them staying in Arizona for the next little while they build the arena. But if they are not able to get an arena done in the not too distant future, and they probably don't put shovels in the ground to build a new arena within the next year or two, I think there's a very likely chance that this team winds up relocating. And I think if they don't have a place in Arizona where they can build a new arena in the next couple of months, there's a very likely chance the NHL comes in and relocates this team. So it'll be interesting to see, but it sounds like relocation, while not really official, is possible at this point in time if the Arizona Coyotes don't wind up getting their stuff together. I think this goes one of two ways. If Arizona's able to find a parcel of land and they can start working on it in the not too distant future by January, February, I think they will stay in Arizona for at least the time being, and hopefully if they don't go into any sort of complications like they did in Tempe, they should be able to get a new arena. But if they aren't able to start building their arena and are unable to get a new parcel of land to build a new NHL arena, I think there's a very likely chance that the Arizona Coyotes will wind up moving at some point in time, and I think it's very likely that it could be Houston or Salt Lake City. So it's going to be interesting to see, but it sounds like a lot of governors are starting to get frustrated with the situation. We know the NHLPA has been frustrated with the situation. We know that there's a lot of people out there who don't want Arizona playing in a 5,000 seat arena for too long, and it doesn't seem that the NHL also wants to keep Arizona in Arizona for too long if they're going to keep on playing in a 5,000 seat arena. So either Arizona gets a new parcel of land, starts building an arena, and is going to stay in Arizona long term, or they're not going to be able to get that parcel of land, they're not going to be able to get the new arena, and they're probably going to be relocated somewhere else. So it'll be interesting to see, but that's sort of the update around Arizona. So there's going to be a situation we have to watch over the next month or two to see if they wind up getting a new parcel of land, or if we get into late February, early March, and we haven't heard anything on that, I think there's a very likely chance we could see a team relocate. So it'll be interesting to see. And lastly here, going over to a couple of trade rumors. Now first, Toronto Maple Leafs. There have been a link to a lot of defensemen over the past little while, and this is something I want to ask you guys. What sort of defenseman do you think would be the perfect fit for Toronto, and what sort of defenseman do you think they should go after? Now, with the Klingberg injury, it allows them to place him on long-term injury reserve. It gives them yet another contract they're able to put on long-term injury reserve. He's probably going to miss the rest of the season. It says he's going to be around 5-6 months after hip surgery, so so he's probably done with the Maple Leafs. So there's a very likely chance that his career with Toronto was done. So with $4.15 million in cap space now being available, I think there's a very likely chance that the Leafs go ahead and try and add some pieces before a trade deadline. So it will be interesting to see, but they need some more defensive help. They need some more defense. We know they were in on Zadorov. Zadorov winds up going to Vancouver. Now I've heard Tanev. According to Elliot Friedman, this team pushed really hard to get Tanev and Zadorov from Calgary, and apparently they were asking too much retention slots. The Flames really want to try and move a couple of pieces this year, sort of retool this team. Like I said, they're not doing overly well this year. They're doing all right. They're 10-12-3 if I'm correct, but they're not doing fantastic, and I think they're not a cup contender at this point in time, so I think it will be the right move, in my opinion. Calgary Flames to move some of these pending UFAs who don't seem to want to stay at this point in time. So it seems like with them wanting to move guys like Tanev and Lindholm, they're more willing to move those guys with retained salary slots than they were with Zadorov as well, and they didn't want to trade Zadorov and Tanev with retained salary slots to Toronto. With Vancouver not needing Calgary to retain anything, it sort of just worked in Vancouver's favor. So that's sort of what happened with Vancouver. I definitely do wonder if the Leafs still look at Tanev. There's been a lot of talk that even though they didn't get Zadorov and Tanev, and the reason was because they're asking Calgary to retain too much, it does seem like they still have some interest in Tanev. He's a good, solid top four defenseman. He has connections to GM Brad Treliving. He's a very fantastic defenseman. He's a good defensive defenseman, someone who the Leafs could definitely use right now. And on top of that, he's a Toronto person, so he might be also willing to extend long term there. So it will be interesting to see, but it seems like they have interest in Tanev. I've heard some people say they have interest in a couple of Flyers defensemen, including Sean Walker and Rasmus Ristolainen. Both guys are doing pretty good so far this year. Ristolainen's come off of an injury. He's looked all right to start the season. However, even though he's a right-shot defenseman, he's on a really long-term contract. I think he's like on a 4 or 5 year deal at $5 million. So it would be pretty pricey if they were to go after Ristolainen, but I have seen the Ristolainen link to the Leafs in the past couple of days. Sean Walker, Philadelphia as well. He's a decent second, third pair defenseman. He's shown this year that he can be a really good player. He does have a decent cap hit at 2.6, but not as high as Ristolainen, and he's also a pending UFA, so the Flyers might be more willing to retain salary on him. But definitely, it'll be interesting to see. I think Walker could be a fantastic addition to the Maple Leafs. Maybe not as a top four defenseman, which is something they're looking for right now, but definitely as a third pair defenseman, a third pair physical defenseman who could definitely, they could use right now. So it'll be interesting to see, but it sounds like Walker, Ristolainen are a couple of guys who are there are available. Mario Ferraro from San Jose, there's been a couple of people linking him to San Jose, so that would be interesting to see. There's definitely been a couple of other players out there who I think have also been linked to the Leafs as well, so it'll be interesting to see, but I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. Like I said, who do you think could be possibly moved to Toronto at this point in time, who could possibly be a really good fit there? I don't think they'll go after a guy like Tyson Barrie, because Barrie's already went there, he didn't work out. So on top of Barrie, who else do you think would work? Is it Fabro in Nashville? Could he be a possible option? Ferraro in San Jose? Dumba maybe in Arizona? Ristolainen or Walker in Philadelphia? Tanev in Calgary? Maybe someone else who I haven't mentioned at this point in time? Definitely, I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on who you think the best option for Toronto would be to acquire a defenseman is down in the comment section below. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on that. Going over to a couple of recent reports I've seen, I'm not exactly sure if I can confirm this 100%, but I saw a couple of rumors on Twitter, or X as it's called now, saying that maybe the Kraken have some interest in goaltenders from the Montreal Canadiens. It sounds like maybe that the Seattle Kraken could have some interest in a couple of Canadiens goaltenders. Now, I wouldn't exactly know who the Seattle Kraken would be targeting. Now, Montembeault's almost a guarantee now not to be moved after signing his extension, so it would have to be one of Primeau or Allen. Now, they have a decent tandem so far this year of Grubauer and Duclair. Duclair's played actually quite well so far this year for Seattle, but Grubauer's not really fit in well the entirety of his time there in Seattle. That contract's not done very well for Seattle. I think the best time Grubauer's been in Seattle was during the playoff run last year with Seattle. So since signing his contract in Seattle, it's not done overly well. And I think Duclair's definitely the better of the two goalies at this point in time. So it will be interesting to see. But I could see them possibly acquire one of them, but I'm not exactly sure if there'll be a huge upgrade. I mean, would you possibly move Grubauer down on waivers? Would you move him as a third string goaltender? Would you try try and move him to another team, that's possible. So it'll be interesting to see. But Allen's making $3.75 million. The Kraken are not a team with abundance of cap space. So unless they are moving Grubauer, whether it be down to the minors or to another team, it would be definitely a really, really difficult for them to acquire Allen. Now, they do also have Chris Drieger in the minors right now, and he's in the final year of his deal. So they could technically move him and acquire Allen. So it would be interesting to see. Primeau's could be like a solid third string option there for the Seattle Kraken if he was to be acquired from the Montreal Canadiens. So it'll be interesting to see. But I think it's a little bit surprising that the Kraken have some interest in some of the Canadiens goaltenders. I think they're doing pretty good so far this year. Decord's done all right. Grubauer's, like I said, below average right now, but I think they still have to give them a little bit of a runway. I know that the Kraken are not doing overly well right now with a below 500 record, but I think they are still a decent team, and I think Grubauer should be a part of it. So it'll be interesting to see, but that's sort of the update around the Seattle Kraken. I'm not exactly sure if they should go after one of those two, and if they do, what does that mean for Grubauer to Decord? Do they move Decord or Grubauer down with minors? Do they try and trade Grubauer, as Decord's probably been the better of the two goalies? Definitely. It'll be interesting to see, but I think if the Canadiens were to move a goaltender, maybe Seattle's a team who's interested. We know that Edmonton's interested. We know that New Jersey's interested, and maybe another team like Seattle could be interested in the Canadiens goaltenders too. We'll have to wait and see. Over to the San Jose Sharks, a couple more updates there. First, Mario Ferraro. According to the fourthperiod.com, there are a couple of teams who are showing interest right now in Sharks defenseman Mario Ferraro. That is the Hurricanes, Flames, Oilers, Leafs, and Stars. So, according to a couple of reports, it sounds like there are a lot of teams who could be interested in Ferraro. The fourthperiod.com ranks these 5 teams as teams who have interest. We know that Carolina made a huge run, according to Elliot Friedman last year, to try and acquire Mario Ferraro. So having them interested in getting it, I don't think is too much of a surprise. You know, the Leafs could use a defenseman, top 4, possibly top 6 defenseman, someone who has a little bit of bite to their game. Ferraro does have a little bit of bite to his game, so that could be a really good option there for the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Edmonton Oilers, that's another option. You know, Oilers could definitely benefit from having another defenseman. Ferraro's not overly expensive at $3.25 million, so I could definitely see Oilers have interest. The Flames, like we said, have a ton of defensive possible trade options, including, like we said, they've already moved Zadorov. They're planning on possibly moving Tanev and Hanifin. So with all of that being said, I could definitely see him be interested in trying to acquire a younger defenseman to sort of work on that blue line. So I could definitely see Flames have interest. And we know that the Stars have, over the past couple of weeks, been mentioned by Elliot Friedman to be prioritizing defensemen as opposed to trying to add a guy like Patrick Kane. So I could definitely see him have some interest in Ferraro as like a solid second, third pair defenseman. So I'm not overly sure that any of these teams are sort of being linked to Ferraro right now. I think it would take a massive package to acquire Ferraro, but definitely, like I said, Canes probably don't need a defenseman, but with the way they've been playing so far this year defensively, I think I could definitely use one. Leafs need a defensive upgrade. Oilers need a defensive upgrade. Stars think they need a defensive upgrade. And I think the Flames, with all of their pending UFAs, could definitely use a younger defenseman who could work with their team over the next couple of years. So I'm not overly shocked that these teams are interested, and I think they could definitely have a lot of good interest. If I look at a couple other rumors for the San Jose Sharks, that Elliot Friedman thinks that Anthony Duclair will definitely be moved by a trade deadline. He said this on one of his recent 32 Thoughts podcasts. I think Duclair is a very fantastic player. I think he's going to be a very fantastic trade chip at the deadline. He makes, I think, $3 million. He's in the final year of his deal. He's a very speedy middle six winger who I think could definitely fit in with a lot of teams' top line. So it'll be interesting to see, but I think Duclair could definitely be a solid top 6 forward on a contender, and I think if he continues to play like he has in the past 5-10 games, he'll definitely be a solid trade option for San Jose Sharks. So he's going to be a name to watch out for over the next couple of weeks as we lead on to closer and closer to trade deadline. And on top of that, Mackenzie Blackwood continues to be a possible trade option there for San Jose Sharks. A decent goaltender. Just had a fantastic season. Some teams who need upgrades like Buffalo, New Jersey, Edmonton, maybe even Seattle now could all look at guys like Blackwood as a solid upgrade. Blackwood's definitely done quite well so far this year. He's definitely kept the Sharks in games they definitely shouldn't be in. So I definitely think that Blackwood's looked fantastic so far this year. And I think Blackwood's going to be a fantastic addition for this whoever winds up acquiring him. But he's also got a year extra left. He's not a pending UFA. He's got this year plus next year. So the Sharks don't have to move him if they don't want to. But I think there'll be enough interest that either now or possibly in the offseason, Blackwood should possibly be dealt. So it'll be interesting to see, but that's another update there for San Jose Sharks. It seems like there's a lot of teams interested in Ferraro, and that Duclair is definitely a likely option to be dealt by a deadline, while Blackwood, whether it be before a deadline or in the offseason, will very likely be moved by San Jose Sharks too. And lastly here, GM Barrie Trotz recently was speaking out on the Tyson Barrie stuff. He said that Barrie has not been playing overly well. Barrie has not done fantastic, which is why he was healthy scratch for the first time in his career. And he didn't like his response to being scratched. So that definitely sounds like there's a trade coming for Barrie. It sounds like there's definitely some sort of a tear between him and the Nashville Predators. Trotz said that it definitely seems like he was not happy with not being on the first power play unit. He just hasn't been a huge point producer this year, and it sounds like they're trying to move him. He also said that he's a little bit upset that those rumors got out because there was only a few people who know, but it's definitely going to be interesting to see. And he said that he's definitely going to check in around and see who's going to possibly want a guy like Tyson Barrie and what sort of a trade that could possibly look like. But I've seen a couple of reports say that with Trotz and Barrie not doing overly well, not on the greatest of terms, that we could say a trade happened possibly even before the roster freeze in December. I think that's only a couple of weeks away, so it would be interesting to see a Barrie trade this early in the season. Like I said, a team who needs offensive capabilities off their blue line, who could be a solid top 4 defenseman. I think that would be a fantastic addition for a team. So it'll be interesting to see, but I could definitely see Barrie be moved in the not too distant future, and it could be in the next couple of days. So we'll have to wait and see on that situation, but we know that Barrie's been given permission to talk for a possible trade option, and I think there would be definitely a couple of cup contenders who could definitely use offensive defensemen in their top 4, like a Tyson Barrie. So it will be interesting to see, but I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on all of this down in the comment section. That's all I'm going to talk about for today. Do you think Tyson Barrie gets moved before the roster freeze in December, or do you think it's more of a deadline acquisition? And do you think Barrie does wind up getting moved, and if so, where do you think he goes? Love to hear your guys' thoughts on that. Also love to hear your guys' thoughts on, do you think Ferraro winds up getting moved? If so, is it Carolina, Dallas, Toronto, Edmonton, Calgary, or is there another team out there who could definitely acquire him? And do you think Duclair winds up getting moved at the deadline, or Blackwood possibly, or do you think Blackwood's more likely in the offseason? Definitely love to hear your guys' thoughts on that. Which sort of player do you think Toronto winds up acquiring as a defenseman? Is it Ristolainen, Walker, Tanev, someone else? Definitely love to hear your guys' thoughts on that. Do you think that the Montreal Canadiens goaltender could be a fit in Seattle? I'm not sure wholeheartedly if they would be a really good fit. I think Grubauer and DeCourt are still a pretty decent tandem, but I definitely think that they could definitely use some more improvements in nets. And if they were to move Grubauer or Drieger, I think there's a possibility that the Kraken could definitely use a goalie upgrade, so it'll be interesting to see there. And what else do you think about all the other things that happened? The Board of Governors meeting and the injury and waiver update. Definitely love to hear your guys' thoughts on all of this down in the comment section below. But that's what I'm going to talk about for today. Remember to like this video, and if you really liked it, remember to subscribe down below. We are so close to subscribers. Thank you for all of your support. I would never be able to do this without you guys. Don't forget to subscribe. Also, a blog talking about news, rumors, analysis, stuff like that. So definitely check that out. I'll leave links in the description below. And I can't wait to see you guys all for the next video. See you guys soon.